I don't like what Joe was using for
Between the two of you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Village Board for, what is today, November 18th, 2019. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Simpson, roll call, please.
Trustee Papantos? Present. Trustee Lang?
Here.
Trustee Vito?
Here.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
Trustee Kruger? Present. Trustee Raffato?
Here.
President Horker?
Here. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes this evening.
Appointments and confirmations. Tonight, do I have that? I would like a motion to appoint Bill Hellyer to the Chicago Executive Airport Board of Directors. May I?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Trustee Raffato. Second.
I'll second.
Trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Raffato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Mr. Hellyer, would you please come up and take your oath?
Right here.
Please speak into the microphone.
Okay.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Bill Hellyer,
I, Bill Hellyer,
having been appointed to the Chicago Executive Airport
having been appointed to the Chicago Executive
Board
Airport
of Directors
Board of Directors,
in the Village of Wheeling,
Village
in
of
the
Wheeling,
counties of Cook and Lake,
in the counties of Cook and Lake,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will solemnly support the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of the Chicago Executive Airport Board
of the office of the Chicago Executive Board
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
That's a lot. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
No, I just want to take a moment. Thank you for applying for the position and involving the community. It's always very important for everybody to contribute. If you see something that needs to be addressed or you want to change.
Okay.
Citizens' concerns and comments. Clerk Simpson.
Citizens' concerns and comments. Members of the public may address the board with comments regarding only those items that are relevant to village business. No citizen shall speak for more than 5 minutes without consent of the board. Members of the general public who wish to address the board must sign the request to speak form prior to the commencement of the public meeting. Ms. Wilson?
And just as a reminder, this is a time for the citizens to make comments and express their concerns and the board to listen. Neither the board nor the staff will be answering questions.
Hi, and tonight, approval of bills packet. I noticed that the village manager's credit card recognizes fraud and a fraud correction from a local big box store. I know this happened to me once at Target. They said anybody who came during this week, your stuff might be compromised, and so I would just like to hear more about what we've done to secure our municipal credit and what Walmart has done or the credit card company has done to assist you with that. Mr. Sfondilis, when I had confronted you at a previous meeting about your getting a room at the Ramada, you alleged that it was for Haley Reinhardt, a performer at the Rocking the Runway event. And while that would have been true possibly for one of your 2 expenditures at the Ramada, it does not explain the August 14th where it doesn't give any reason. It just says to be refunded, incorrect. So can you please explain to us why you were getting a room at the Ramada instead of here at Village Hall? It says here that the transaction date was on the 14th. That was a day you should have been in the office instead of at a hotel. I'm profoundly saddened that we lost Opus on Lake Cook Road. They're a huge global company with money to lay out $40 million over there on Lake Cook Road. I see that there's a separation agreement with Mr. Jennings. I don't know if that's related, but I'm concerned that our current village manager, having grown up here, I think that he has done things to shut down opportunity for people who he has personal animus with, because he's been here a long time. One of the part owners of that property is the former Public Works Director that he was in a bit of competition with years ago when they worked in Public Works together. I'm just very concerned, with the assessments that all the businesses in town got that letter, what their new, that 3-year cycle, their new evaluation of what the assessor is going to assess their property at, many of their property taxes doubled. I think at this time in history, this unique time in Cook County history, it's going to be particularly challenging for anybody willing to open up business here in Cook County, especially when we're right across from Lake County, where they can go across the street and do something a lot less expensive. So I don't know much about Mr. Jennings other than he always was exceedingly well prepared, very articulate, rarely caught off guard by any question, and I wish him well. But I am concerned that this board is underestimating the problem that his absence from Village Hall presents daily. Through FOIA records, I have a year of his swipe-in records, and the man is hardly ever here before 10:45 in the morning. Several times a month, not arriving till early afternoon. Mary Papantos, your response to me last time I talked, not to me because you're too cowardly to do it while I'm at the mic. You wait until the end of the meeting or after I've sat down and my time is up, and you said that my allegation that I had swipe records from, I had FOIA'd every other village in the Northwest Municipal Conference, you said that was impossible because they don't have that kind of technology. Okay, you may not like me, you may not like what I have to say, but you can never say that when I come up here, I don't have public records here with me to support my claims. And it's going to be uncomfortable when the next several weeks I come up and I'm going to be showing you every municipality and I'm going to be talking about all of their village manager swipe time records and what time they're going to work. As a board, the only employee under statute that you are permitted to direct is the village manager. He is the one employee that you have control over. You are his direct boss. I feel like you are selling out Wheeling taxpayers by letting this guy play hooky, coming in late, and we're losing billion-dollar developers.
Find a chair.
On one of our most viable sites.
Goodbye. Anybody else? Thank you.
I'll address the only comment that I think needs addressing. The
Go ahead.
August 14th charge was immediately removed because the Ramada charged the village of Wheeling for 2 nights when Haley performed here. One of those 2 nights was paid for by the village. The other of those nights was supposed to be not reimbursed, was supposed to be paid by the performer themselves. As my secretary attempted to deal with the Ramada, instead of removing the original expense, they charged it again, said oops, and then immediately refunded it. So there is no stay at the Ramada for me ever. And as far as the Village of Wheeling paying for anything, we paid for one night per the contract for Haley Reinhardt the evening of her performance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smondo. It's kind of like what you said last time.
No, it wasn't. That was very different.
Clerk Simpson.
Consent agenda?
Yes, please.
Item 11, consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business.
I made a mistake.
What? Oh, I'm sorry.
I have some,
And I checked it off already, that's why. I was,
you can read it again.
but I checked off staff reports. I should have checked it off. That's okay. I'm quiet.
You should have reminded me. We do have some staff reports this evening. Sherry, I'm sorry. Ms. Weiser.
Good evening. You're going to be hearing a lot about the census in the next couple of months, and although 2020 is not too far away, it is really important to understand that the 2020 census begins. You will be receiving in March a postcard from the Census Bureau. Every residence, they're going to be counting every residence in all 5 territories and the United States, including houses, apartments, dormitories, military barracks, nursing homes, everywhere in the United States where someone lives. You will receive a postcard where it will give you a code where you can either answer online, answer by phone, or you may even get the actual census questionnaire in the mail. Please fill that out. Everyone in Wheeling counts. We want everyone to count. If you do not fill that out by probably June, which gives you an awful lot of time, someone may come knocking on your door. So you have many opportunities to fill out the census form. We will have opportunities around the village, at the library, perhaps at the Park District, at Village Hall for you if you need assistance to do that. But we invite everyone, please fill out your Census 2020 form.
So if I may just ask you a question. So if they fill out the form or if they do it online, nobody comes to the house?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Mr. Attorney.
Yes.
I forgot his first name again.
It's okay. Carmen Forte tonight filling in for Jim Ferrolo. We have some brief updates to the retail cannabis, or excuse me, recreational cannabis legislation that was passed earlier this year. There was a trailer bill that was recently passed by the legislature. There are a few issues that relate to local municipalities, including the village, that we want to point out. Really most importantly is that there was some confusion as to where on-site consumption could occur. The trailer bill made it a little more clear. It allows a unit of local government, including a home rule unit, that they may authorize or permit the on-premise consumption of cannabis at or in a dispensing organization, so a retail dispensary, or to retail in a retail tobacco store, which is defined under Section 10 of the Smoke-Free Illinois Act. It's what you expect to be a tobacco store that derives, I think it's 80% of its profits or more from retail tobacco sales. So those sites are still not considered public places within the meaning of the Smoke-Free Illinois Act. And the act says that the local municipality has to provide a waiver to that establishment to denote it to not be a public place under the Smoke-Free Illinois Act. How that procedure is going to occur, it's not very clear. But this essentially alleviates the fear that there could be just standalone lounges not adjacent to a cannabis dispensary or other type of entity that is allowed to sell cannabis. Those would not be allowed. In addition, no food or alcohol would be allowed to be sold at these on-site consumption locations. The trailer bill still allows, as does the original act, for an employer to have zero tolerance policies in effect for cannabis usage. That does not include off-duty consumption for regular employees. However, public safety employees, there is an exception in the trailer bill that does allow a municipality to prohibit and/or take disciplinary action against law enforcement officers, corrections officers, probation officers, paramedics, and firefighters if they consume, possess, sell, purchase, or deliver cannabis or cannabis-infused substances while on or off duty. Now, this type of policy would be subject to collective bargaining, as would any other major condition of employment. One other thing is that if a tax ordinance is passed by April of 2020, the tax could be collected in July on a local municipal level. Before that was, it couldn't be collected till September. And I think really that's all we had. There are some other minor changes that really don't have to do with local control. For instance, medical patients, medical cannabis card holders who are under the age of 21, so from 18 through 21 can now, under the trailer bill, smoke cannabis or consume cannabis that way, whereas you could not smoke cigarettes under state law. So if anybody has any questions, we're going to put out a complete summary and analysis of the trailer bill in the coming days. So if anyone else has any questions now or later, we're happy to address those.
Thank you, sir. Now, Clerk Simpson, consent agenda. Thank you.
Okay, number 11, consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items. 11A, resolution approving a one-year renewal contract with the YMI Group for HVAC preventative maintenance and repair at an amount not to exceed $26,850 in 2020. Item 11B, resolution approving the continued participation in the Suburban Tree Consortium for the purchase of installation of parkway trees during 2020. Item C, resolution approving a 3-year contract with Pizzo and Associates Ltd. for diversion channel and wetland maintenance in a total amount not to exceed $60,000. 11D, resolution authorizing change order number 1 and final to reduce the construction contract with RMS Midwest Water Group for the 2019 manhole rehabilitation program by $12,791. 11E, resolution authorizing change order number 1 and final to increase the construction contract with Hoare Construction for the Dundee Road Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation Project by $11,581.20. 11F, resolution authorizing the village president and clerk to execute a voluntary separation agreement and release of all claims with the Director of Community Development. 11G, resolution approving a revised fee schedule for legal services provided by Klein Thorpe and Jenkins Ltd. as village attorney. 11H, ordinance amending Title II, Chapter 2.03, Procedures of the Corporate Authorities, Section 2.03.010, meetings of the Wheeling Village Code in order to cancel regular meetings that fall on legal holidays on which the village offices are closed for business. 11I, resolution authorizing the village president and clerk to execute an agreement with Health Inspection Professionals Incorporated for health inspection services in the amount of $132,000 over a 3-year period.
Thank you. If there are no questions or comments, I need a motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
Motion, Trustee Papantos, second, Trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. New business.
Can I do 13A?
Yes, please.
13A, resolution of the corporate authorities to determine the amount of the tax levy for the 2019 tax year.
Mr. Monshane, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before you tonight is a resolution that, if approved, will determine the amount of the tax levy for tax year 2019. The resolution is simply an estimate of what the tax levy will be. And it is required by state law that the village board approve a resolution at least 20 days before formally adopting the tax levy. This year, the resolution was prepared consistent with what the board discussed at their budget workshop meeting earlier this month. It reflects an increase of $878,637 over last year's levy, and half of that is related to the termination of the Crossroads TIF district and has no impact on existing taxpayers. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
So just to be clear, the full number, I'm going to jump in quick and then anybody else can ask if they want. So the full number of the actual tax levy is that 5%, 5.5%.
Yes.
But in fact, the only thing that will actually be felt is 2.75%.
Correct, and that's again due to the termination of the Crossroads TIF and the capturing of the new growth from that TIF district.
Thank you, Mr. Montchain. Are there any questions from the board?
It's not a question, it's a point.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I like to make this point kind of every year because the paper will write something, oh, we're raising taxes by 5%, but people have a misconception of how the property is taxed. It's not taxed like an income tax where if you make $100,000 a year, you could tax it 5%, you pay $5,000. The next year you get a raise for $10,000, you pay 5%. At that point you pay $5,000, 550,000 or whatever the number would be. 5,000, what am I saying? Six. What's my number?
You're a lawyer, you should probably not do the numbers.
I'm not a mathematician. In terms of, if you have a $100,000 home or condo here, we don't take a percentage of that home. So if that percentage increases, the value of it, we don't capture that percentage. The only way we can capture any type of inflation is to increase the levy because it's a gross amount of money that we get. We're not tied into a tax rate like an income tax is. So sorry for bundling the math on it, but if we didn't raise it incrementally every year by 2.5%, we would never get any more money. Therefore, we could never give a raise to anybody. We'd be, over a 20-year period at the same amount of income, at the same amount of money we would be 20 years later if we didn't raise the levy. So it's not like we're raising your tax rate every year because before I was on the village board, I always had that kind of feeling when I would read it in the paper and I'd say, geez, they're doing it again. But if we don't do that, we don't get an increased revenue ever. And given inflation and people's salaries need to go up and things get more expensive, we have to do this or else we wouldn't be able to pay our bills. Again, sorry, I'm not good at math, but
No, it's...
I'd just like to make that point when we do this.
Thank you, Trustee Vito. Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. And to piggyback on what Trustee Vito said, the amount that homeowners and businesses pay is due to their assessments, correct, Mr. Mondeshane? I mean, the value of your property. It was not just businesses that were reassessed. I believe all of Wheeling Township and other townships were reassessed in the last go-round. People had, as well as businesses, homeowners, the opportunity to appeal, and they can go on that. The Village of Wheeling has nothing to do with those assessments. Am I correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. We do levy a dollar amount, and that dollar amount covers salaries and increases, but it also covers the amount of cost of goods that we have to buy. Salt for the roads is not free, nor is, pavement repair or anything else that comes up. I wish it was, but I think we all know you head to the grocery store and that loaf of bread you bought, 50 years ago costs a lot more today than it did back then. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Any other comments or questions? If not, we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Vogel.
Second.
Second, Trustee Rufato. Roll call, please.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Rufato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Item B.
13B, resolution adopting procedures and an application process for consideration of request for approval of the Cook County Class 7A and Class 7B incentive program.
I like this. Mr. Malenefi, can you tell us what this is?
Sure. Thank you, President Horker. As you may recall, at the last village board meeting, the board discussed the Class 7 incentive program, and tonight we're recommending approval of a resolution adopting the procedures and application process for the Class 7A and Class 7B incentive programs. Similar to the Class 6B, which is focused on industrial, this would focus upon commercial vacancies in the village. The closure of Sam's Club and a couple of large restaurants prompted economic development staff to encourage the board to adopt this program, and it would provide another tool in our toolbox to address commercial blight and vacancy. The Class 7A programs focused upon development costs exclusive of land that do not exceed $2 million. We've put a $1 million threshold on that. We were able to establish our own guidelines so we could isolate larger projects, and some of the smaller projects could utilize the facade improvement grants from our established TIF districts. The 7B programs focus on total development costs exclusive of land of over $2 million. And the Sam's Club property and the two large vacant restaurants would qualify for the Class 7B program. We also had established some other guidelines that the projects would produce sales tax revenues or hotel, motel tax revenues. The property's got to be vacant for a year. We can audit any promised improvements. If we wanted to seek revocation of a Class 7, we could do so through the county board. Only the county board can revoke a Class 7. And as very similar to the Class 6B program, the village board would strictly prohibit renewals of any Class 7 incentives in accordance with the village's policy on the prohibition of the Class 6B renewals. So we see this as a way to recycle vacant commercial properties in Wheeling, and we're recommending approval of this resolution this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Malenefi.
Thank you.
Trustee Vogel?
Just one question. The application fee of $950, is that adequate? I mean, that's the same application as the 6B, correct?
Correct.
And that's been $950 for how many years?
It's a one-time application fee, and we surveyed some other communities, and we felt that this was in accordance with all the other fees and the same as our Class 6B.
Okay. Well, I guess my question is that 6B fee's been around since I've been here for 10 years. Have we ever looked at adjusting that, or is there a need to?
It was $600 a couple of years back. I mean, since I've been here in the last 6 years, we did update it to $950.
So it has been, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Trustee Vogel. Trustee Lang?
Does it matter if, you might have mentioned this, and just for clarification though, does it matter if the building or the property is in a TIF district or not?
Yes.
Okay, so it has to be in a TIF.
Or an area that we've designated as blighted.
Okay, but
So-
it has to reside in a district, a TIF district or not?
We would have to say that it is a blighted area. It can be in a TIF district, and we can also designate other areas or on other property. The board would have to designate that it's blighted.
Very good.
Can I just add to that?
Sure.
Yeah, you have the opportunity to allow these to come through, so it has to meet your definition of blighted. As far as eligibility, though, for the facade grant portion, they would have to be within a TIF district. But as far as your concurrence with an application to allow a 7A or 7B to go through, it just has to fit your definition of blighted. Therefore, if you feel a property wouldn't qualify because you think this is just not appropriate for any particular property, you have the opportunity to say no to an application.
Okay. And that includes vacant land as well? Land without a building?
Correct.
Okay, great. Just wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Lang. Are there any other questions? Trustee Kruger?
Thank you, Mr. President. Director Malanofi, just to reiterate on the revocation, we have to have some pretty strong evidence before we want to
Correct.
pull that one out of our pocket, right?
I didn't get into all the technicalities, but staff would have to identify some issues. We could conduct an audit. They have 7 days, I believe, to respond to our inquiry. And if they don't, then the village board could seek a resolution for revocation, which we would have to submit to the Cook County Board.
Right.
Only the Cook County Board could actually revoke the Class 7A
I just
or
wanted to
B.
make sure that we wouldn't be doing that willy-nilly, that there would be
Absolutely.
real reasons for it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Kruger. Trustee Vito?
Yeah, in terms of blighted, we're just talking about the property itself, not the area in which the property's in, like a TIF
It's
district.
it's
just
specific
a
to the
specific
property, to the applicant.
Okay. And we, as a board, make that determination, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I just, I said it the last time we discussed it, I'm not a big fan of the limitations on this. I think it should be a little more open. I don't know if there's any, I doubt there's anybody else.
You didn't get your way.
On board with me. No, I get it. So I was a lot better at philosophy than math, so quoting Voltaire, I won't let the perfect be the enemy of the good, and I'll vote for this.
Excellent quote.
Just a comment, I
Trustee
actually
Raffaele.
feel the same way as trustee Vito. But we can reevaluate this, correct, in the future to see maybe these limits aren't working for us, or, so we have that opportunity.
What limit? I mean,
$1 million.
seriously.
Oh. And the sales tax and.
Yeah.
I think the answer to your question is yes. Ultimately, though, it's a philosophical point as to whether or not you see smaller businesses. It's where you believe the threshold should be for incentive. That's all.
And again, not having any experience, $1 million seems fine, but just don't know.
Thank you. Anyone? Oh, trustee Papantos.
Sorry, one quick question.
I was waiting.
They told me not to talk tonight.
And yet.
Sorry.
You don't listen.
Yeah.
That's right. On the blighted, okay, and I'm thinking specifically the RAM, because the RAM is not in a TIF district, if I'm correct?
It's not.
Okay. How, I guess I'm having trouble getting my head around that the building is blighted. I mean,
It'll be
it's
vacant
vacant.
for 1 year in January.
Right.
So that would meet that one definition, and we could establish that it's blighted. We're not getting anyone to purchase it, and this would provide a tool for us to get that reoccupied, because one of the biggest impediments is the property tax liability.
Right, and
given the
I
sheer
totally
size of
understand
it.
that. I was having trouble saying it's blighted, and that's, maybe it's just that term, but as long as we know that because it's been vacant, we can use that as part of the definition.
Like I said, it really started with Sam's Club, because some of the big box retail stores are taking up to 48 months to get reoccupied in the Chicago metropolitan area. So we're trying to address that now with this tool to allow us to offer an incentive to a developer or a retailer to go in and reoccupy that building.
And do we know if any of our neighboring communities have this tool?
Some of the south and southwest suburbs do. I believe the closest suburban community is Niles that does have the Class 7.
I'm glad that we're one of the first, because I think it's going to bring people in.
I agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malenofi.
You're welcome.
If there are no other questions or comments, we do need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion, trustee Lang, second.
Second.
Trustee Kruger, roll call, please.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Rafato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. New tool for the toolbox. Nice work.
Can I go to the next one?
C, please.
13C, ordinance amending Title 4, Chapter 4.84, rental residential property of the Wheeling Village Code in order to incorporate crime-free housing regulations.
Mr. Spondelis.
Thank you. Before you this evening is the final legislative action on the Wheeling Safe Communities Program, which, as a reminder, is a crime reduction program aimed at landlords, training them and creating a code by which they would have to adhere when dealing with their own tenants and their relationship to the law, meaning if there are issues, they are held accountable at the landlord level. Again, this is a crime prevention program that the board has discussed twice prior. Before you this evening is the ordinance changes to Title IV, which detail the purpose, definition, description, and penalties of the program. The next step, should the board approve the ordinance to this evening, is to train our police department personnel so that they can prepare the training seminars that the landlords will be required to attend. We have a contract ready as far as our internal record keeping and database updates are concerned, so that once the new fiscal year begins, we will implement those changes so that we are ready on the record keeping side, and then we will begin our landlord outreach. So that's the immediate are the changes this evening to the code. The long-term are the training activities for both staff and then the landlords. Happy to answer any questions.
We have any questions right, left? If there are no questions, we need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Papantos.
Second.
I'll give that to Trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Raffato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. D.
Item D, discussion regarding 2020 to 2024 capital improvement plan.
Mr. Tack.
Good evening. Public Works has prepared a brief presentation tonight for you for the Capital Improvement Plan fiscal year 2020 through 2024. That works, wonderful. It should be noted that the CIP's 2020 projects are included and approved as part of the village's 2020 annual budget. It should also be noted that the proposed CIP includes the summaries and project descriptions of the 2020 funded projects, as well as the 2021 through 2024 projects. Before we start in on the 2020 projects, we'd like to do a brief overview of the 2019 projects. MFT street improvements, approximately 24,000 lineal feet of pavement was installed in Tahoe Village, Malibu Cove, Lexington Commons, Chelsea Cove, and Eastwood Trails at a cost of around $2 million. The water main replacement program consisted of over 4,600 feet of water main installed in Foster, Century, and Milwaukee. That included full width resurfacing of all of the streets at just under $2 million. Improvements on Industrial Lane, significant. Approximately 2,100 feet of water main, over 2,800 feet of storm sewer, and more than 2,300 feet of sanitary sewer was installed in Industrial Lane. Industrial Lane also included complete resurfacing of the road, ribbon curb on both sides, and sidewalk on the north side. We're just about done with that. We ran into a little bit of weather problems with the site restoration and the landscaping, but we hope for some fair weather here to get that wrapped up. That cost is $2.4 million. Diversionary Channel Bridge. This is a precast bridge structure, 3 lanes wide, included pavement off of the end of Wolf Court is where this is located. Curb and gutter, sanitary, storm sewer pipe extensions, and lighting at a cost of $1.7 million. Dundee Road sanitary sewer rehabilitation. Some of you may have noticed the overland route that was constructed to bypass the sanitary sewer as the work was being done. It involved lining of 8-inch to 30-inch diameter sanitary sewer from Buffalo Creek to Elmhurst Road at a cost of approximately $1 million. We installed 1,200 lineal feet of sanitary sewer. Actually, once again, we're in the process of completing that. It's very close. 8-inch sanitary sewer pipe extension from Hintz Road south along Wolf Road to allow the development of parcels on the west side of Wolf at just a little bit over $400,000. Asphalt surface treatment, commonly known as HA5. We did pavement sealing on Dunhurst and Avalon Sienna subdivisions, and also the Dundee Road bike path at a cost of $150,000. Sanitary sewer evaluation, this is an MWRD program that we're required to investigate our inflow and infiltration into our sanitary sewer system at a cost of $75,000. Overall, 96% of the total budget funding was invested in the 2019 projects. Now we can move on to the 2020 projects. Before we get started, we should identify the funding sources for the 2020 capital improvements. The Capital Projects Fund, Motor Fuel Tax Fund, Water and Sewer Fund, the Storm Sewer Fund, and TIF funds. Now, some of the more notable projects that we will be completing: our annual sidewalk and concrete program. We have $40,000 budgeted this year. The locations are determined by staff. The objective of the program is to replace curb and deteriorated sidewalk squares to help improve drainage and eliminate potential trip hazards. Next, we have the new public sidewalk construction program. This particular reach of sidewalk along Milwaukee Avenue we've been working on for several years now. In 2020, we have $14,000 budgeted to complete the design. In 2021, we have $416,500 budgeted for construction. This project will be done in 2021, assuming we can get IDOT on board here, which has been a struggle, but we're getting very close. And it will be done in conjunction with the 2021 water main project. The goal of this program, the sidewalk program, is to connect areas in the village and fill gaps as indicated in the sidewalk master plan. And the specific reach along Milwaukee Avenue is from just north of Hintz to Sumac. Our annual parkway tree planting program, we have $20,000 for next year. It's at various locations, replaces dead, diseased, or damaged parkway trees throughout the village. Fire Station 23. Next year's budget is $4.2 million. This project funds the demolition and reconstruction of the fire station, the garage, the concrete apron, basically everything brand new, as I understand it. The preliminary plans have recently been completed for the fire station and will be presented to the Planning Commission the second meeting in December. The asphalt surface treatment program, commonly known as HA5, as I stated earlier, budgeted in 2020 is $400,000. We anticipate sealing streets in Hollywood Ridge Unit 2, Longtree, Meadowbrook, and Harmony Village. This is an ongoing program for preventive maintenance to extend pavement life. Typically, what happens is after we complete our street improvement program, 2 to 3 years later, we will follow and do this HA5 treatment to help seal up the surfaces to extend the life.
John, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
This side, sorry. HA5 treatment, is that only for streets with curb and gutter?
No, not necessarily.
Jackson was done a couple years ago. I was just wondering if we qualify, even though it's not an IDOT.
No, the
graded
goal is
street.
to really go after all of the new pavement that we put down. There's no question about that, and even in parking lots, too. We do plan on using it here in the village parking lot after some patching here in the next year or so that we're going to do. So, yeah, absolutely. To be honest with you, we're trying to catch up with some of the streets that, before we started this program, I think this is our third year now, we're trying to catch up with some of the streets that were done prior. So we're a little bit behind on getting everything rolling, so it may be 4 years before we actually get to Jackson.
Got it.
Okay.
So forget about us. Thanks.
2020 Street Improvement Program. Budgeted in 2020 is $2.255 million, with the majority of that funding coming from the MFT funds at $1.475 million. The majority of the dollars spent in this program are with curb replacement, pavement grinding, and resurfacing. And in 2020 and 2021, Tahoe Village Phase 3 will be completed in 2020. Lexington Commons Phase 2 will be completed in 2021, and in 2020, in 2021, we will do Phase 3, which will wrap up Lexington Commons. In 2020, we will begin the work in Dunhurst, and I suspect, East Dunhurst that is, and I suspect there will be multiple phases to get all of that work done.
John, can you go into a little detail of what's going to happen in East Dunhurst?
Well, the roads are in very tough shape. So I don't have the soil borings data yet, so I'm hoping that we're going to be able to grind and resurface, which is what I said the majority of our money gets spent on. There may be some areas that need to be reconstructed, and we will certainly address those as they come up. The other thing that we plan on doing a lot of in Dunhurst, and that's why if you look at the MFT money, or excuse me, the 2000 Street Improvement Program, you'll see $500,000 there of stormwater funds. We do plan on, and our consultant is on board with this, and something that they are currently working on, is investigating all of the street drainage and adding additional storm sewer in that subdivision to help the localized drainage problems that exist in there. So.
Very good, thank you.
Sure. Next, we have the lead service line replacement program. Budgeted next year is $2.26 million, with $1 million in grant funding expected. These are at various locations throughout the village. This project consists of replacing the entire length of residential lead service from the municipal water main to the Buffalo box and then to the water meter service. This village program has prepared for future regulations that we know are coming and has a shovel-ready project in place to be able to take full advantage of grant funding in the future.
Excuse me, Mr. Tack. So do we have to wait for the grant until it's mandated? I know we're a step ahead of this and we've already contacted homeowners, correct?
Yes, and we are applying for the grant. I know that there's some additional paperwork that was necessary.
Do we answer that? You want to? Go ahead.
Go ahead if you want.
What's happening is that we do have to, we have to approve, the board has to approve the grant actually before we get it. You're going to be seeing documentation for the IEPA actually before the project begins, because most communities are going to be taking this grant and then they're going to be taking a loan out as part of it. The village, since we put away funds already, we're going to apply for the grant and then just pay for the balance of the program ourselves through our CIP funds. So we do have to actually approve the program actually before we even get the grant. We're trying to get the grant money before a lot of other communities begin this project, begin their own project. So without, in competition with them, we're trying to get this done early.
And do we know how many approximately?
It's approximately 115, mostly on the east side of town.
And are they mostly residents, or are there any
It's all residential.
It's all residential?
That's correct.
Great, thank you.
Next, we have the Storm Sewer Fund. I believe the next three slides all have to do with Storm Sewer Fund. The first of which here is the drainage improvements for East Dunhurst. We have a little over $2 million budgeted next year. The stormwater improvements will be completed throughout East Dunhurst. Currently, we're in the preliminary design phase of improvements along East Wayne Place. The next Storm Sewer Fund project is the Longtree Basin expansion. We have $600,000 budgeted next year. This basin is 2.7 acres in surface area, has approximately 7 acre-feet of storage. Our goal is to expand this basin 5 to 6 acre-feet of additional storage, depending on final design, which is hopefully will be wrapped up in the next couple of months.
Is that to increase the actual acreage or the depth?
We're going down.
Down?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we have the ability to go down.
And
2 to 3 feet is what we're anticipating.
what area will benefit the most from that?
Well, I haven't been here as long as some people. My understanding is that basin has overtopped and impacted Hintz Road in the past also. So this additional storage will help with that situation in the future. And we hope that by dropping the water surface in some of the smaller storm events, it will prevent some of the backwater from upstream, which runs all the way up to Jackson, of course.
Thank you.
And the last stormwater funded project is the East Chester drainage improvements. We have $310,000 budgeted for that next year. These improvements will redirect drainage from East Chester east. It currently flows north through storm sewer into East Dunhurst. And the goal is to send this drainage east over to Echo Lake, therefore helping out the East Dunhurst drainage problems. In summary, the total 2020 CIP budget is approximately $20 million, spread over approximately 50 different municipal capital improvement projects. At this time, staff requests Village Board approval of the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2020 through 2024 as presented. And if you have any questions, we'd be happy to take them now.
The East Chester, the last slide you showed, that's actually, if I understand it correctly, you're basically removing half of the volume that pipe was going to have to carry to get it out of the two neighborhoods. You're taking half of that subdivision. They piggybacked one storm sewer onto another.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is basically cutting it in half and getting it out of that area before it has to flow through to the north.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah,
that's correct.
It's an excellent plan. Comments from the board? There was a sentence in here.
Uh-oh.
Oh, I like this. This is good. The past 4 years have seen an annual CIP expenditures average less than 1% over expected costs. Nice. That's on you. What I'm going to say is it's an excellent job of budgeting because, I mean, before that you go on to say how other villages sometimes spend 10 or 15%. And just, this is millions of dollars for a lot of big infrastructure projects, and you guys are planning it really tight. And thank you for the work you do.
Thank you.
Questions or comments? We need this is just discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Can I just piggyback on that? Please. I'd just like to take the opportunity to, as President Horker said, in 20 minutes, we reviewed probably the most aggressive CIP list of projects that we've had in 2019, and also went over a $20 million expenditure for 2020. And I know I said this at the budget workshop, but it really needs to be repeated how great of a staff that we have. We have not bonded for an infrastructure project in many, many, many years and have no intention of doing so. and that is both because staff is very good at planning and allocating, but also that this board and past boards have been very good at recognizing the importance of staying on top of CIP projects, staying ahead of infrastructure issues before they become an emergency. And we recognize that that's a lot of money that we ask from you on an annual basis. And I hope that you see the reward for that now coming out in some of these successes that we've had and the plan for the next 5 years. So I'd just like to congratulate Public Works, which includes engineering, and really all of staff for their continued hard work on making sure that this document really is a blueprint for us to be able to move forward successfully.
Thank you, Mr. Spondilis. Thank you, Mr. Tack. Clerk Simpson.
What?
Official communication.
Okay. This coming Sunday, Lights Around Wheeling will be held on Sunday, November 24th at 4:30 p.m. at Friendship Park, the northeast corner of Dundee and Milwaukee. Visit with Santa, get a cup of hot cocoa and a cookie, and watch the lights brighten the village as we usher in the holiday season. Also, coming up again is Lollipop Lane. It starts December 7th, Saturday, December 7th, and runs to Sunday, December 15th. Saturday and Sunday hours are 2 to 5. Weekday hours are 6 to 8, and it's open to adults beside children. If you haven't been there, you need to come. It's a winter wonderland. It's really very nice. That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Papantos?
Thank you. I just wanted to give a shout out to the Wheeling Park District. President Stein and Commissioner Klump are both here. Wonderful job yesterday for the Community Thanksgiving Feast. I think close to 400 people ate. Everybody had a smile on their face. I was lucky enough to be one of the servers and talked many little children into trying sweet potatoes, so I've done my job. Sherry was standing next to me. She listened. But thank you very much for hosting that every year. I think everybody enjoys it, and it's great to see a community come together on something like that.
Thank you, Trustee Papantos. Trustee Kruger?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to piggyback on Clerk Simpson's announcement about Lights Around Wheeling, I'm checking my AccuWeather app, and it says that Sunday, the 24th, says some sun, then turning cloudy, but I just like the number 43 degrees. Could possibly be the warmest Lights Around Wheeling we've had in a while, and driest. So.
We buried that in the budget. We bought that.
Nice, nice. Well done. Thank you very much.
That's why the paper towels cost so much. We do have the expenses for October 31st through November 13th before you. If there are no questions, Trustee Papantos.
Sorry, just to clarify, credit card fraud does not happen because somebody has taken their credit card to a Walmart or whatever charges were there and the card was stolen. It can happen during an online transaction. It can happen in any number of ways. Ms. Wilson likes to make up and present what she claims are facts. I am not a coward, but I will not engage with her. But I will tell you, as far as I'm concerned, we all know why she is no longer teaching. We've read the bill of particulars. She really ought to just get a career writing fiction because she's really good at making things up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Papantos. As I mentioned, you have before you the bills of October 31st till November 13th. We need a motion for their approval.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Trustee Kruger, second Trustee Papantos. Roll call, please.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Rafato?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. We have no executive session tonight, and that was a very quick meeting where we spent several tens of millions of dollars. I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Trustee Rafato, second Trustee Kruger. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for joining us.
Sunday.
Yeah.